Welcome to the CFB Dynasty podcast with hosts Matt Knowles, Brian McElfresh, and Doug Gravely.
Hey everybody, how you doing out there today? It's time for the CFBDynasty.com podcast. We're through with week 0, week 1, week 2, week 3. Now we're going to finally start getting into the meat of the college football schedule, which means that we're going to get into the meat of the college fantasy schedule. VMAC, Doug, how you guys doing over there in good internet connection land?
I don't want to be done with week 3. I'm never going to forget week 3.
No, he's a happy camper,
Tennessee,
bro.
And I'm life is good again, man. For real. Florida looked great. ETN, one of our DFS sleepers in the DFS show, really showed out and crushed it this week. A lot of our DFS sleepers really balled out this week. So it was great. Great week. Looking forward to getting into the meat of the schedule, though, like you said, Matt, where there's normalcy and it's just been kind of a lot of ups and downs. And looking at the running backs as you're building out the rankings, it's a little bit odd where you see the variance there from week to week.
So we're going to obviously talk about who to target when it comes to player pickups and who you want to put in your lineups. But let's talk about the biggest targeting call that has taken the college football news world by storm. And that's the hit on Travis Hunter from Colorado last week. I don't know if you guys were watching that game live, but I've never seen a hit that was more of a player targeting another player with the intent of, I'm not going to say I know what the intent of the player was to injure another player, but it sure was dirty.
Well, maybe let me rephrase this for you, because I know you're a long-time football guy. So maybe from the targeting era, is that what you're saying? Because obviously before, people tried to steal everyone's souls and then dance over their dead body. If you're thinking of like Miami Hurricanes and whatnot of the late 80s. And
yeah, you look back and you look at that hit, and even people to LeBron James are like, I've seen people thrown out of games for less than what Blackburn did to Travis Hunter.
Of all the people that I would want to not hear from, it's LeBron Flopper James.
Yeah, somebody that gets carried off a basketball court for a muscle cramp.
So what do you guys think about that? About one, the play. Have you seen a play that just is so blatantly obvious that the guy was intending to hit another player late? I mean, that play just seemed ridiculous to me.
So many. Like, I mean, it was a late hit. The best part about it was Deion's response and Travis Hunter's response. You know, kind of as you would expect, right? He comes out in a full giraffe suit and goes live on social media to talk about it. But
and he basically said, it's football.
Yeah. And I love their response. It was a late hit for sure, and he knew it. Like the ball was on his feet at his feet before he like launched into him. So I'm sure there's plenty, and it's just quite the reaction because it's Deion and his team and all that stuff. I think there's a lot of malarkey out there about, he should get his scholarship taken away. That's stupid.
No, I think that the overreaction is exactly that, an overreaction. However, for him to only get a 15-yard penalty, for him to not be thrown out of that game, for the conference after the game to not say, hey, the referees did not administrate this well, we're going to go and suspend this guy for the next game, where there being no reaction in that respect to me is the thing that we all need to take pause on. Because if you're an unscrupulous college coach and you see that your guy's not going to get thrown out of the game for injuring a star player on another team, and you're like, you know what, I just want to win the game, and maybe we don't win the game. I just want to take my rivals out for maybe future games because Travis Hunter's now out for multiple weeks because of this dirty hit. And you're like, all I have to do is absorb a 15-yard penalty. That is not the signal that college football wants to be sending out there. And then if you're somebody, and take this back to fantasy, if you're somebody in fantasy that you've got Travis Hunter and you're like, man, I'm sitting pretty, you're one dirty hit away with no consequences of losing a star player. So that's the thing that frustrates me, is that you're going to go back. Guys are both going to get up from a normal tackle, and you're going to go, oh, we're going to a replay review because technically this is targeting. His head scraped the other guy's helmet. We're going to eject somebody for a normal course of play hit. And you're not going to throw this guy out for something that everybody that's blind can even see that this was a dirty hit. What do you got?
It's weird. Multiple flags on the play. And then on the flip side too, Shadur Sanders, like on live TV, we kept seeing replays of him poking someone in the eye, reaching through the helmet. And it's like, normally you get suspended or flagged for that kind of stuff too. And we haven't heard anything about that yet either. So it's weird. I don't know. Like the way that game was kind of playing out, I was wondering how many Suns Dion was going to have left by the end of the game. He had like with the eye pokes and all that. It's crazy.
I think he finally, did though admit that one of them is his son. I saw him putting a necklace on him after he did something good. I don't know if that's like the initiation, like, hey, in order to be seen with me on TV, you have to do something good. But I don't know. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, I got the pick six, right?
Hey, it was good. It was good seeing the other Sanders son be able to do something like that. I was surprised he didn't.
21.
Wearing 21.
Yep, for sure.
Now I will say this too. I'm also surprised that Colorado State was not flagged for doing the Dion shuffle in the end zone after scores. To me, that seems like taunting right there. If they're going to be talking about taunting, I think that's pretty much taunting the other team's coach. It's just very inconsistent in the way the rules are applied. Yeah. I'm not saying I would throw the flag. I'm just saying if you're going to throw the flags, make sure they're consistent.
I just think with how that week was leading up to that game, there was going to be a lot of like, we're just going to let these guys put on gloves and duke this out because this is intense. Like even I watched the entire game. It was 2:10 in the morning, our time when I went to bed, just because I wanted to see the interaction of the coaches at the end. Because Dion was like, "Keep the cameras on us." I'm like, "What the heck is going to happen?" Like,
I forgot. Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to be exciting, and I hope they punch each other. Like, let's let the game spill over to the coaches at this point. I'm down.
Yeah. Such a fun game. So many fantasy stars in that game too.
Horton, man. Bro.
Yeah, Horton. Weaver's killing it. The Horn, a lot of great stuff. Shador, of course. And the new starting quarterback at Colorado State looked good, and as he replaced Clay Millen. So is that something we see for the long term? Like, he's totally a good waiver wire pickup. I think we had him on our Waiver Wire Gems on Sunday.
The only thing I worry about is that intensity from that team every week. If that makes sense.
They're going to be featured. Did you see the rating? Like, they had a crazy
9.3
million. Rating was insane. Yeah. Insane. And it's crazy to think, BMAC, we've been doing this for a couple of years. I don't know if we have ever mentioned a Colorado player ever on the show until Dion went there. It's the Dion effect, and it's great because you've now got more storylines, more things to talk about in college football because you have such a strong personality. Now, we did talk about Dion probably a little bit at Jackson State. Maybe we talked about him a little bit, but to be at this level, I mean, when was the last time there was any coach in college football that was this polarizing and brought so much excitement to the game?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. I love it. I know there's a lot more to come, and I can't wait to see like just how their recruiting class does. They're going to flip some big time guys. They're great with media.
They're already trying.
Yeah.
They're 4-star receiver that committed to Michigan State because they're losing their coach. Yep. Dion's already reached out to him.
Yep. Tennessee at Florida. That one was exactly kind of the game script that I had hoped for as a Florida fan. But ETN came out, and you saw why going into through the offseason where we were just saying, Montrell Johnson's really good, but ETN is different. Like, he's an NFL running back, the way he's got great vision, but he's got a burstiness to him that's just different. And on the flip side with Tennessee, Florida took away the 3-yard passes after the first drive where Tennessee set a couple screens like basketball illegal, and then got a couple deep balls. After that, they did not trust him. Is it time? And I think it is. Is it time for little Nico Iamaleava, where maybe his increased accuracy can fix that Tennessee offense? They're playing UTSA this week. I think it's the perfect setup. If that's someone that you target as, maybe he's going to get some garbage time, or maybe he plays the whole second half. Maybe he looks great. This would be a potential time to target him beforehand. But I like Nico, and I think we should see him this week. What do you guys think?
I think so. I think that at some point and here's my honest opinion.
Which is exactly what we want.
Tennessee competing for anything spectacular by the end of the year. So I honestly think what time is better than now than throwing this kid in for a quarter or a half, a game here and there, and seeing what you have from him, because they're not going to be there at the end of the year. So,
yep, it's one of those things where when he comes out and he does look good, those fans are not going to settle for Milton having like back-to-back bad drives and all that.
There was already fans before this year started that weren't happy that Milton was the starter. So
Milton looked good in the bowl game against Clemson. It was not against their full team, of course, but hey, he did look good and he was accurate, and that's the difference. But they, with play calling, clearly did not trust Milton in that game. There's a couple other elite stacks, and then we can get into our standout performers. How about Malik Neighbors, man? Jaden Daniels to Neighbors was incredible. They were two of the top 5 or 6 points guys, I think, in the country. Mm-hmm. And then you also Granger to Lewis for Georgia State, who I was looking at. And to be honest, I was looking at Lewis to pick up in our league, Matt, but then I started looking at the fantasy playoffs. And this is now, when you're picking up players now, you have to look at those fantasy playoffs. You plan for success in fantasy, right? And when you get there, you need to have good matchups. So now's the time, no matter what kind of league you're in, you need to be looking at the playoffs and picking up players who have favorable playoff matchups. And Lewis does not have I forget who they play in week 11 in the beginning round, but it's a tough matchup. And then they go at LSU. He's unstartable until the championship game in the playoffs, and you just can't.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be picking up somebody that is going to be on the opposite side of those week 12 SEC matchups that are just going to get straight beat down. I know many moons ago, I had every quarterback on my roster injured except for one who was playing for FAU, and I feel like FAU was playing the opposite end of a money game in week 12, and that just completely killed me. But what can you do? Back to Tennessee, I think that one of the things we all might have made a little mistake about with Tennessee was because they were so powerful last year, had so many guys that went to the NFL. Not every school is going to be able to just retool the next year when you lose so many good, high-quality players, and I think we're seeing that struggle for Tennessee. I think we saw that struggle last year with Clemson. They just weren't able to replace a lot of those high-end guys that came in, that left. So, maybe Tennessee, maybe you're right. Maybe Nico needs to be the guy to try and spark that offense.
Yeah, and they've become a running team, and the running backs, I think, will still be valuable in this offense. But, a lot of people were rightfully high on Squirrel White. But, man, when there's no trust and he's throwing the ball in the dirt there, Milton, then that's too rough. How about the last one for this week? As a reaction, Alabama's struggles offensively, 17 points against USF. And so they've announced Milroe as the starter. There were rumors, and I would maybe think this was the case based on how they used him over the course of that rough game. There were rumors that he was suspended silently for that game. And wasn't eligible to play within the team's rules or whatever. So with him in the lineup, what do you guys think's ahead for Bama?
It is so hard to say. I mean, last year's Alabama offense was not the Alabama offense from years past. And maybe we're seeing a little bit of a shift. Maybe Alabama, even with all their top recruits coming in, is not going to have that top line offense. Do I really think that's where we're going? Probably not. I think Alabama is going to find a way to turn it around, but there's definitely some big issues at that quarterback spot. I think Alabama's quarterback run is probably over as the way we've seen it. The guys going straight to the NFL as high picks. I don't know. What do you think, Doug?
I got such a different brain when it comes to this. Like, I look at everything in general for this team, and man, sometimes, and I'm not used to seeing this, but even Saban looks confused. Like, what the heck is going on? Like, what are we doing? Why is this going on this way? You know, I don't think he's used to this struggle. But to get on the Milroe question, man, it's so much more than a quarterback for me. I think Milroe is he excels as an athlete, but it is so much more at Alabama than just that quarterback position to me right now. They're on the struggle bus.
O-line, man, for me. Like, two things. A, they didn't tailor the offense to Milroe. They were running out, testing out the quarterbacks to me in a pocket passing style, because that's what they have behind him. They've got Lonergan, they've got Simpson, etc., and they're more prototype pocket passers, and that's what this offense is, which if they don't tailor it for Milroe, it's not a good fit for him. He should transfer out and be the next man up at Oregon or whatever. But they should tailor the offense to him. And then do they have the O-line to do it? Going into the year, we knew Bama was loading up, big O-line. They were supposed to be able to run the ball. They haven't looked the part. They just haven't. They haven't been able to run the ball consistently. And we'll see what's ahead. I really don't know. I'm hanging on to Milroe because of his elite traits. If they use him correctly, he can be elite in fantasy. But still holding on, and we'll see. We'll see there. We have the standout performances of last week. So Schrader last week for Syracuse put up 50 points. Salter for Liberty put up just under 50. Neighbors 48.9. Daniels 44. Granger 43. Did you have anyone else? So those were the top performances of the week. And yeah, we've got that stack in there, Daniels to Neighbors, which was incredible. Did anyone stand out to you last week, Doug?
And so it's probably not going to be an every week guy, but the fact that he's a freshman, Nick Anderson, receiver at Oklahoma, had 31.5. All three of his catches were touchdowns. He didn't have any receptions week 2, but in week 1 he averaged 34 yards of reception. Like, he just seems to be in the future a guy that could potentially be that guy where you're like, crap, where's he at? He's going to beat us for a 70-yard touchdown all the time.
Right.
So he stood out just because of future potential for me, for that kid.
Yeah, I had the opposite of that. Only one touchdown out of my guy, but the 20 targets for Nate McCollum in his first full game at North Carolina. If he's available, snag him now. Like 15 catches, about 150 yards. He gets a lot of those like quick screen passes, etc. But 20 targets, that's not going to go away. If that gets cut in half over the course of the season, it's still a good amount. Because he is 5'9", you worry about his usage in the red zone, etc. But Mac Brown called him the Josh Downs of this offense, which, Downs was incredible and a week in, week out starter if you had him in fantasy. So Nate McCollum really stood out in his first full game because he was dealing with injuries and stuff the first couple games. He got like 8 snaps the week before. If you look at him just in Fantrax, you're like, ooh, one target for 1 yard or something little. This was his first full game, and it's important to know that and not just look at the data there. And legit verified speed if you watch highlights from the game and highlights from when he was at Georgia Tech. He had like 60 catches, 6 touchdowns, I think, last year for Georgia Tech, catching from a terrible quarterback. And now with Drake May, like this could be the start of something great. So we'll see there.
And I'm just going to go back to somebody that's a completely obvious player. Doug, you said you watched that entire Colorado State game.
Yep.
In the first half, Shedeur Sanders looked completely mortal. His stat line was terrible. Second half, overtime, he was like trying to prove that he is an unbenchable quarterback at this point in the season. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. You have him on your roster, you need to have him started because the stat line he put up in the second half and in overtime showed that this guy can't be on your bench. He has to start. I don't care who you have, unless you've got Michael Penix. I think that Shedeur Sanders is somebody you have to be starting.
This week, though?
This week, I think they're going to get smoked.
I'd still start him every week. I mean, until you see him say, I'm not the guy to start, I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be afraid to start him.
Well, we're not at the rankings point yet, but I like this. Let's get right into this.
I was going to say my big issue, and I'll just keep going with it because you know me. I like to debate. I like this stuff. This is great. So when you have a Colorado State defense that, to me, looked like a different defense in the second half, they played more prevent defense in the second half. I expected Sanders to kind of shred their defense a little bit. They were playing like 15 yards off their receivers. It was really weird. So I don't know. I still think that if Colorado State would have stuck with the same defensive mindset they had in the first half, it would have been different.
I have 23 quarterbacks ahead of Shedeur Sanders in our rankings simply because of the data. Like you look at, they're playing on the road at Autzen Stadium against Oregon. It's a big over-under. They do expect a lot of points, but they expect a lot of points from Oregon and like 3 touchdowns-ish from Colorado. And while if they are all Shedeur Sanders, which they probably will be because Colorado is one-dimensional, they cannot run the ball
we'll see what
on
happens.
Anybody.
McCaskill is potentially supposed to be back this week.
That's fine. The O-line's still going to suck. Like I think McCaskill will get good. He'll get targets out of the backfield more than he gets carries potentially. So I like Shedeur. I do think most every week you're going to be able to start him because they can't run the ball. He might lead the team in rushing by the end of the year.
He showed he can do that. He showed he can move around a little bit. So,
but this game is the one where I find so many better players. Now, do you disagree there, Matt? What do you think?
So, as I said earlier, if you got him, you got to start him. But I do agree with you. When you got the data and you've got 22 guys ahead of him, you look at some of the matchups. As we said at the beginning of the broadcast, you've got teams that are now going to be playing against opponents of their level. So you've got Caden Salter, Liberty, playing Florida International. You've got Tyler Van Dyke playing Temple. You've got Darren Granger playing against Coastal Carolina. Mikey Keene from Fresno State playing Kent State. So, yeah, there's a lot of matchups that are even levels there. I guess it matters who you have on your team, but I would still say until Shedeur puts up a crappy performance, it's kind of hard to put him. It's kind of hard to bench the guy, but just with what he's done so far this year.
You mentioned Salter, by the way. It'd be interesting to see. I'm pretty sure he was a Tennessee commit, got kicked out of Tennessee. It'd be interesting to see how that game played out last week against Florida with him as the starter.
That kid is something fierce this year. That's all I know.
But yeah, I've got like Tyler Van Dyke against Temple. Miami's supposed to score 38 points. He's averaging 35 a game, whereas Shedeur Sanders is averaging 42.5 a game, but they're only projected to score 25. So it's a lot of these guys are good starts, but yeah, I use the data to kind of select who we're favoring. Yeah. So, do we move along?
I say we absolutely move along. Move along. People on the podcast, they want to know what we can do to help their teams.
Mm-hmm.
So VMAC, where are we going now? You let us know.
All right. Well, this next portion is the milk carton portion of the show, where I don't have the drop ready. We got drops for the rest of the segments here, but that's on me. I thought I had that one done. My bad to everyone. But let's hear a little bit of this sad piano music and set the tone. We asked people in the Discord too, like, who really letting got to get it out. And for me, Jordan Curley at SMU. It's not about last week's performance and the points he scored, because he did fine. A couple touchdowns. 4 targets is his top of the season through 3 games so far. For SMU, Preston Stone, that entire offense, that's really, really disappointing to me that he's only getting 4 targets. I've got him in my lineup again, starting. I'm ready to get hurt again, but I need him to perform. How about you, Doug?
So for me, a guy that was really close to my heart at one point, and still kind of is. And there was a team that was really close to his heart too, and a team of Wyoming, who his current team played against this past weekend. And I just have to think, how did Isaiah Nair feel watching Wyoming against Texas, knowing that he was not there to play for either one? Knowing that he wasn't out there to play for my team either.
I didn't even think about that.
This guy, it's like ripping my heart out talking about this. 2 targets all year, and I don't see that getting any better for him. So, a question for you both: do you ever wonder if these guys are like, was the grass really greener?
Oh, sure. I do all the time. Like, that's
an
rough.
800 and something yard receiver, 12 touchdowns in his last year with Wyoming.
Yeah.
And he's on pace to get like 6.8 catches this year. That's like rough. I kind of want to just take a little drive. You guys know I don't like to fly. Take a little drive to Texas and be like, what are you doing, fool?
Well, he can't transfer again after that.
It's funny that you bring him up, because I'm going to go with exactly the same scenario player. Dante Cephas transfers from Kent State to Penn State, was a top receiver at Kent State. Dude has been targeted 6 times in 3 games at Penn State. 4 receptions, has got like 70 yards on this season. Maybe your butt should have stayed at Kent State instead of being a bench warmer at Penn State. You have hurt guys, especially in our leagues. We've got Dynasty, College to Pro. Somebody may have picked you up last year. You transfer, and now you're sitting on the bench doing absolutely nothing. You're on the side of the milk carton. I don't see you coming off of there.
From the Discord, we have one that I also agree with. Like, Willem T. I think, Matt, you're like partially to blame for this one. Berrien Brown with 3 targets. What? Who is Devin Leary, and why is he not using a future NFL wide receiver?
So I'm partially just because Devin Leary was my quarterback.
Yeah.
I was like, I haven't talked about Berrien. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand why Devin Leary's not using them. But come on, Leary. You're doing the red and white of NC State bad, even though you're not our quarterback anymore. Come on, man.
You've got 2 there, though. Like I told you, B, earlier this morning. Key, another 6'3", good receiver, 0 fantasy points last week.
Goose egg.
Like, it's insane to me. And then we got Rara Tiger, which is one that I agree with too, because I was high on this guy.
Me too.
Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. Are they just like, do you just not believe in handing guys with great potential the football over there? I don't understand what's going on, but Raw Tiger, I 100% agree with you. This guy is definitely on the milk carton for sure.
In 3 games, Ollie Gordon has 19 carries. They got absolutely beat down by South Alabama last week. Beat down.
It's 33-7.
I'm like, come on, this is Oklahoma State. I mean, I know that South Alabama's got another milk carton potential participant in LaDamian Webb. You know, he's found a way to work himself off of that carton. But still, South Alabama 33-7. I mean, stop acting like you're Stanford getting beaten by Sacramento State. You're Oklahoma State. We expect better.
Brandon Lang had one. Will Shipley for Clemson. That, you know, if you drafted him, you invested high draft capital in him. So it's painful to see what's going on. But just like William in the Discord suggested, I think since that first game against Duke, they're just trying to get Klubnik going. I think you will get a heavy dose of Shipley, who I'm pretty sure had a great game against FSU last year. I think it's going to be the Shipley show this week. And we're not supposed to get excited on this segment, but I am. He's in my lineup. I think Shipley's going to have a good bounce back this week. So
you're saying you're going from tears of sadness to tears of joy right here in this one segment, huh?
Yeah, and we have one more that is the saddest of them all because he's like listing out probably half of his
fantasy
early
team
picks.
here, probably.
Sir Mocha goes Bangora, Singer, Wigglers, Curly, Hood. What's going on?
And Wigglers, I can feel it. I can feel that because I've got him in our, open league. I think I drafted him like round 2 or 3, so I feel that one with you. One of these guys for sure. Singer, I wasn't sure how to feel about him at the beginning, but man, Bangora, potentially a great running back, and he's not doing much. Curly, one of VMAC's boys. He mentioned him already, and then you got Hood.
Another one of my guys.
Some good players here that you're just kind of like.
Hood's at least getting like
going
8 targets or so a game. He just hasn't, that offense will open up as they get into conference play more. Because you got Davis Brin, Hood's quarterback there, averaging like 21 points a game in fantasy. I think he's one that's gonna blow up over the course of the season, with Hood alongside. So we'll see how it goes. We got one more segment here, reviewing the Open. And
now listen here. I'm going to take this Open review because I feel like I'm the only person that is qualified on this show to review the Open, and here's why.
I had nothing to say anyways. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We got a 24-team league. If you go and look at the standings, I'm now sitting at 4-2. I'm in 6th place. I'm in position to be in the Champions League next season. My team is now still scoring the second most points in the league behind Oaktown, who is still undefeated. Dude is blowing everybody out. He's one of my only 2 losses. But you look at the table, and you're like, where's VMAC? Where's Doug? So you got to get that little mouse button on your scroll button on your mouse, and you scroll down, and you scroll down. And you keep going. You feel like you have to go off the cornfields. I mean, it's like if this was on the CFB Dynasty rankings, you'd be going to like into the 200s and 300s. You go all the way down. 20th and 21st out of 24 teams. They are literally down there hanging out with Cleishreen and Carissa. At 20th and 21st are BMAC and Doug sitting unpretty at 1-5. BMAC, Doug, what in the world is going on with your squads in the Open League? How can you do this? How can you show your face in the Open League when you're 1-5? What's going on, fellas?
I'm a sleeper, bro. I'm a sleeper.
We're 3 weeks in. I think hopefully some of these guys that I have as we get into conference play, things will level out. But it's rough, to be honest, and it's sad, and I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Well, but that's too bad because there's one matchup There's a matchup at the bottom of the table. So I play BMAC in the open league this week. But Doug, I want to know, how is it going to be in the office this week with you playing versus Carissa? You're at 1-5. She's at 0-6. Somebody has to get a win that is going to be undeserving of getting a win in this game. Is it going to be you? Is it going to be Carissa? What do you think?
So I haven't looked at Chris's team, but I really think it'll be me. For the simple fact that, yes, we're getting into conference play. A lot of my players, for real, have played like a half of a game. I got receiver Odunze from Washington, who hasn't played a whole game yet. I've got McCarthy, who really hasn't played a whole game or played against a team that he has had to play at the top of his game. And then the one that's hurting me again, though, and I mentioned him already, is Ollie Gordon. I don't know what is going on there. But I know that the moment I take him out of my lineup is the moment he's going to be the Ollie Gordon that I expected. So I'm just rolling with him. And I don't know. We'll see. Matthew Golden hasn't really produced for me yet. I blame it on the quarterback there. It's not Golden's fault. I love you, bro. I blame it on your quarterback. But I really think it's gonna be me. It has to be me at this point. I cannot be the first one to give somebody a win. It just can't happen.
So, but what's going to happen if you lose to if you lose to Carissa? How is the vibe going to be around the office? And BMAC, are you going to make it as uncomfortable as you possibly can for Doug?
The positive is
I can be ruthless. I will be ruthless.
I can legitimately work from home every day and not have to see anyone. So it's fine.
I just want to let you know that the entire CFB Open universe is rooting for Carissa to get her first win this week against you. Just because of the fun. If she wins, BMAC, listen, if Carissa beats Doug this week, we've got to have her on the show next week.
We'll do a special short. We'll do a special short or something too if she does. It'll be
guaranteed.
Fun.
We'll bring her on. All right, we're gonna move on. Well, let's pick up the pace a little bit to news and notes. Doug, here I'm kicking it to you.
News and notes around college football.
All right, y'all. So we've got some news and notes. Got quite a few, so I'm going to go through them pretty quickly here. Rocket Sanders, somebody that I personally love as a running back. He's participating in individual drills but is not wearing pads. Apparently he's still got that lingering knee injury, so be mindful of that if he's on your rosters. Kendall Milton for Georgia has not practiced this week. Georgia's been hit with the injury bug at running back for sure this year, so we'll see what happens there. Cam Rising, goodness, somebody that we have been like, the suspense is killing us over here because I know some people have drafted him and are just waiting for him to play. Medical staff is supposed to make a decision tomorrow.
Ooh.
So he has been practicing, but no contact practicing. So they're going to make a decision tomorrow on where he's at. And then Iowa, arguably tight end university. Luke Lachey, tight end. He's getting surgery today. He's out for the season potentially. So I believe their other tight end is all correct.
Yes.
So he may be shooting up some draft boards here or some waivers, really, if he's not on a team. Then you got Zachariah Franklin, another guy that we wonder, was the grass really greener for you? He's practicing now, but with a no-contact jersey. Jaden Ott for Cal running back should play this weekend, was out last weekend. And Trey Harris, kind of a surprise at Ole Miss, the sleeper of Ole Miss, if you will, this year, with all the hype around Zachariah Franklin. He was limited in practice this week.
I think he's going to play based on what Lane Kiffin addressed him and pre-scoring yesterday.
He's been limited, so yeah. But he is. I think the quote I read from Kiffin is hopeful to play this weekend.
Yeah.
And Antoine Wells, this poor fella, I feel like he'll play a week and then he's hurt. He'll play a week and then he's hurt. Super talented when he plays.
Yep. Got a touchdown against Georgia and then came up hurt right after the touchdown.
He's out again this week.
was a crucial 3rd and 15 or something like that too.
Yeah,
into a great touchdown.
Will Howard, quarterback for Kansas, and Treshaun Ward. So running back for Kansas, Treshaun Ward is doubtful. Will Howard is questionable. It is a leg injury, so keep a close eye on that. And then you got McCaskill, we've already briefly mentioned. He's started practicing with contact this week, so Dion is hopeful that he'll be able to come in and participate. Then Frank Gore got roughed up a little bit last week, and he's probable to play. Casey Thompson, quarterback for FAU, which this could affect your receivers at FAU. This could affect everybody.
Yep.
Torn ACL. He's out for the year.
Out for the year. Yeah, we were high on him. We moved up LeJonte Wester, etc. in the preseason at receiver because Thompson committed there to FAU. But yeah, this hurts for sure.
And then you got Ollie Jennings, receiver at Virginia Tech. No timetable for his return. So that could be pretty bad. Then you got Anthony Grant, running back for Nebraska, is now the starter. So I remember in the Discord earlier in the year, they're like, what the heck's going on with Gabe Ervin? They said he was going to be the guy. Well, Gabe Ervin's got apparently the hips of an old man, and it's broken and all messed up and jacked up, and he's out for the season. So Anthony Grant is now going to be the guy at Nebraska. So that's what we got for news and notes right now. I'm sure there'll be more, and as there's more, I will be sure to post them on Discord for you guys.
One other quick note is Arizona State. If you've got somebody playing against Arizona State, your defense especially, they finished their last game with their 4th string quarterback. Their top 3 quarterbacks were all injured. Rashada out 4 to 6 weeks. They're hoping to have their 2nd and 3rd string back, hopefully for this week, but they probably are going to start their game with their 3rd string quarterback if he's healthy. If not, it's going to be their 4th. That is an offense that is in an absolute mess right now. So if you've got a defense playing against Arizona State, you might want to start them.
I mean, they're bad enough that Oklahoma State beat them earlier.
They may need some offensive line help in the offseason this year.
Let's move along here and talk waiver wire real quick. We push this out every Sunday, and that's so that it gets out there before waiver wires and everything. So we'll talk about it a little bit here for a quick segment.
Waiver Wire Gems.
All right, so we talked about him earlier. Braden Fowler Nicolosi, Colorado State. Young guy, and came in for Clay Millen, got the start, and put up some points against Colorado in a rivalry game. He looked really good, and I think that connection there with him and the receivers is just going to get better over the course of the year. We talked about Haynes King, like a little comeback story here for Haynes King. Doing well at Virginia Tech, averaging 38.5 fantasy points a game. We'll see as he gets into ACC play how that lasts. Salter we talked about, Granger we've talked about. I think those are known commodities now, but they're still only rostered in 34% and 41% of all leagues. I like Brady Cook, man. Missouri looks good, and he's got a future NFL star at receiver, sophomore Luther Burden. So I think Cook kind of leaning on Burden, being able to move the ball around a little bit. If you're looking for someone who's not going to be, an elite fantasy presence, but might be a good streamer here or there on a bye week need with a good matchup, that could be good. Mikey Keene, man, Doug, tell me about him. I know you're surprised he's still out there. We were high on him during the season. He's averaging almost 30 points a game, and as they get into conference play, it's only going to get better. Only rostered in 27% of leagues.
Incredible.
So, man, Mikey Keene, sophomore. So if you have one of those, kind of holdover leagues, or you'd have him for a couple years as well, and he's going to be the guy for a couple years. Just what I see from him, man, he's so good, but he just doesn't get a lot of credit. he's a battler. When I've watched Fresno's games this year, because a lot of them are on ESPN Plus, and I got like 3 TVs in my back room, and I watch as many games as I can. But he's a battler. He loves to battle. And his schedule, he's got Kent State this week, Nevada next week, Wyoming the week after, and Utah State the week after that before their bye. Then after the bye, UNLV, Boise, San Jose State, New Mexico, and San Diego State, all in the bottom 75% of passing defenses in the league. Like, this is a guy that I don't think you can call even a streamer. Like, this is a guy that potentially will start for your fantasy team 3, 4, maybe 5 times this year, depending on who you have at quarterback.
Another one like that for me is Harrison Whaley, who we kind of advised to wait a week because he's coming back from an injury.
Shoot me in.
And then he gets the 62-yard touchdown run. They were totally outmatched in their opponent, but a lot of Wyoming talk on the show. Hey, whatever. I've seen Wyoming play live in the Swamp before and interacted with some of their fans. It's fun. But he's back from an injury, and 20 points is going to be like, he's going to be a week in, week out starter, only rostered in 43% of leagues. So there's a lot of leagues that are sleeping on him and absolutely should not be. Roydell Williams for Alabama. Don't know how this is going to play out over the course of the season, but he led the team in carries kind of by a lot. So if he takes over as running back 1 there at Bama, that could be a really, really nice one if they go run heavy over the course of the year. Jacoby George from Miami continues to score touchdowns. How will he do in competitive games? Well, we saw him against Texas A&M do well, and I think just will he be the guy we'll see more and more over time? And then Lincoln Victor, there's some more kind of mentioned on there, Jordan Watkins, etc. But anyways, anyone else there, Matt, that you wanted to talk about on Waiver Wire Gems before we move along here?
I think it's all right for us to move along because I'm looking forward to getting to some brisket locks.
Okay. Well, first we're gonna do some streamers, and let's get to
go
it.
Streaming.
All right, Doug, I'll let you kick it off here. I know you've got a few. I've got a few streamers. So someone might ask, all right, what is a streamer? Well, a streamer is basically kind of a lower rostered kind of player who may be available on the waiver wire for you to pick up and use and abuse for a week or two. Or potentially, maybe like Doug's first guy, he'll end up being a normal starter for you.
So I've got, again, we talked about him already, Keene for Fresno State for sure. We said only rostered in 27% of leagues. Like,
stupid.
He's a guy that, I'd say pick up now, not just for streaming purposes, but for potentially looking at every week starter kind of guy.
Yep.
And then my other one, with the news of Trayshawn Ward for Kansas State being out this week, and who knows how long in college football anymore. We don't know if it's 1 week, 2,
That's right.
3. DJ Giddens for Kansas State is rostered in 22% of leagues. When he has played, he's averaging 6 yards a carry this year.
Love it.
He is my other streamer for sure. DJ Giddens out of Kansas State.
Yeah, Georgia for me, all kinds of trouble at running back with healthy, and what Kendall Milton still dealing with injuries. It's just never going to end for him. I feel bad for him. You have those players that are just always hurt. So Dewan Edwards, he started last week anyways against South Carolina. Got plenty of touches. I like him a lot this week and potentially moving forward if he just takes over RB1 for Georgia. They played so different in the second half, and if that Georgia appears and plays angry, plays with an edge, and Juwan Edwards is that starting running back, I love that pickup there. I've got Troy running back Kamani Vidal, and I think he hasn't got a touchdown yet, but he gets plenty of touches. Mm-hmm. Touchdowns will follow. Like Vidal a lot for the rest of the season. Stephen McBride, receiver for Hawaii. And then this week especially, as we wait for the beatdown, Oregon against Colorado, give me and it's I think the same in DraftKings and whatnot, these teams that are going to score a ton of points, give me that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. I like Tez Johnson this week against Oregon as someone, if you're desperate, need to pick up somebody who's available on the waiver wire. I think it's a good one at receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I will, Matt, bring up the rankings real quick to kind of talk about this. So we put these out every week, obviously, on typically Tuesday. So there's been a little bit of adjustment though. So in the past few weeks, we've used SP Plus to kind of help us understand the strength of the defense against the run, or the strength of the offense, total, blah, blah, blah. Now we've removed those. I think we've got 3, data points, potentially 4 for some teams, where we're starting to see defense versus the pass and defense versus the rush for year to date. It's updated previously. When we had this, it was last year's data until we have some significant data points here. So these will change every week as we adjust them throughout the season based on how they perform, so that you'll be able to see, how these teams are. And right now it's a little bit wonky because there's been plenty of mismatches and whatnot, but we'll see these change every week now, and that'll be important to kind of know how good is that pass defense you're going against, how good is the rush defense you're going against. And then you'll see W1, W2, W3 as columns, and these are new. We'll keep a trailing 3 weeks there, so meaning the most recent 3 weeks, so that you can get like a glimpse of how they're performing, how they're trending, that kind of thing. Historically, I used to do this to help me spot injured players and whatnot, but it just became good data that everyone kind of wanted to see over time. So we've got those most recent 3 weeks added to the spreadsheet there. So if you have questions or anything, of course, hit me up on the Discord, but the rankings are there. It's based on all the data, and we present the data to you. And if you hate that data, then let me know too, because I'm a spreadsheet person. I like to kind of show my work and provide that in there. And we talk about rankings throughout the week, and made an adjustment actually right before the show based on some of the news we got. So this stuff will stay up to date. It changes as news comes in. So questions or anything, let me know. We'll see more of this stuff become more normalized over time, but dang, with all the mismatches, and you see it in the week 1, 2, and 3 data trends there, like there's a lot of variance there in terms of how they perform. But what's not new is Rasheen Ali, number 1 running back in fantasy points per game so far this year. He's just a killer. But anyways, any questions, or did I miss anything there, Matt or Doug, before we move along?
Nope.
No, not at all. I think that I love looking at the rankings every year and seeing brand new names and brand new people at the top. Last year we had a few schools we talked about every single week, and those schools are barely even represented in the top 20 this year. So it's fun. It's not the same stuff over and over every year.
2 segments left, and let's get to the Brisket Lock.
It's time for the Brisket Lock.
I got a bad taste in my mouth. I'm going to take this one and start. So I don't even want to talk about last week, but it was the first one that I had that underperformed. And that underperformance is an understatement because he totally bombed. Stefan Cobbs was terrible. He's a drop candidate. We'll have him on a future barbershop segment, I'm sure. This week, I'm cleansing with Malachi Corley. He's only averaging 13 fantasy points per game so far for Western Kentucky, but they get an evenly matched opponent this week. He busted out, man, a few times last year where he'd have 3 touchdowns in a game. I want to see Malachi Corley break out this week, and like him a lot, Western Kentucky.
I think he's going to do good too, considering he's still coming back off an injury. That's part of the reason why his performance has been down. So I think that he's going to get back to where he is, who we thought he was, kind of thing. Doug, what about you? Who's your brisket lock for this week?
Man, a kid that I've been keeping a close eye on since the beginning of the season, and VMAC will be one of the first ones to tell you this, that I've mentioned this guy a couple times just in conversations with me and him, but LJ Martin, freshman running back from BYU, who got the start last week. Robbins is a little dinged up, but I still think that they haven't been happy with what Robbins has contributed to the running game in BYU. And Kansas is giving up 5 yards a carry right now. So I'm going to go with LJ Martin, who had a really nice game last week as his first game as a starter, and I think he's going to continue that push.
It's good analysis. I love it.
All right, I'm going to go with Kefeli Ashlock, somebody we've talked about quite a bit, the freshman wide receiver from Hawaii, and here's why. He gets an incredible number of targets every game. He's got 9, 12, 9, and then this past week, Hawaii was playing at Oregon. Still had 8 targets and 8 receptions. He caught everything that was thrown his way and still had 8 receptions against Oregon. This week, they're playing at home versus New Mexico State in a midnight start game. So they're going to have all the advantages in the game against a weaker opponent. I think he has a chance to break out, potentially have double-digit catches in this game this week.
Nice.
Love it.
Midnight start. Goodness gracious.
Makes me frustrated, too, because I hate all these games where this is going to be multiple weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row. We have to stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to see how my teams perform. But what can you do?
DFS Host Battle.
All right. Well, each week we pick a DraftKings lineup. We pick the biggest player pool, which we don't have to, but that's just what we have been doing. So we've got our Saturday slate of DFS. We're in DraftKings doing the host battle here where we unveil our lineups. We don't talk about it at all before the show and compete against each other for money. So,
and for those of you wondering, Doug has been on the struggle bus.
So just pick Doug's lineup if you expect a comeback, or you can roll with mine.
Comeback story. Woo!
I edged the win the last 2 weeks. Matt won the first week, so here we are.
Oh, you dropped the beat down this past week, man. Don't undersell it. You were
edge. It was a
you dropped the hammer this week. I tried to go a little different direction with my lineup. It did not work, and VMAC dropped the freaking hammer.
Yeah, I got smashed. 2 weeks in a row, I have been absolutely smashed.
It was an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment this week. I was embarrassed to even look at my lineup. So congrats, BMAC, on getting your first absolute beatdown of the year.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just glad I can donate to y'all's fund every week.
Appreciate it. All right. Why don't you lead us off, Doug? Who you got?
Boom. All right. So I've got a really cheap stack here, which I'll get into. But at quarterback, I went with Slavis this week for BYU against Kansas at $5,700. Then running back, Bailey for TCU at 64. Then I went with Shipley at 57 against FSU. Then Oklahoma receiver Andrell Anthony against Cincinnati at 5,300. Then one of our boys that we just talked about a little bit ago, Tez Johnson for Oregon against Colorado at 59. And then I'm expecting a bounce back a start this year for Roberts at BYU, the Slavis Roberts combination. He was only 4,500. So I'm trying to do some things that VMAC has been doing that's been kicking my rear end and get a couple guys that I think are going to step it up a little bit, get some value from my money to where I can do what I did just now with my last two. So at flex, I've got Stewart for Texas A&M at 6,700.
I almost had Stewart. I love that pick this week. I know they're playing Auburn, but
my super flex, I'm going with 2 stacks this week. My super flex, because of my value, I went with Bo Nix against Colorado.
Oh, I love the Bo Nix play. I really thought about trying to get him in my lineup, but didn't make it happen. So I'll give mine, and then Matt, you can give yours and close us out here.
Sounds good.
I've got Preston Stone at quarterback. SMU is playing at TCU. Their defense is pretty terrible. So I think both defenses are pretty terrible in that game, which is why I have some other players from that game. But at running back, I've got Rasheen Ali. He's $6,000.
Almost went with him.
The number 1 running back in fantasy right now in points per game. So that's an easy pick for me. And then I've got Will Shipley. Also, Doug, same as you, 5,700. Clemson at home against FSU. I expect Florida State to win, but I think Clemson's going to go with their only known commodity there in Will Shipley. I've got Doug's boy at wide receiver, Troy Franklin, $6,900. And then I'm ready to get doubly hurt. I've got him in my fantasy lineup. I've also putting some money down on a breakout performance, please. Jordan Curley, please. I just need some help here.
Please.
5,300.
Pretty please.
All right. Well, I am.
And then hold on. I still got a couple more here. You're good.
My bad. I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
My next receiver. Yeah, this is how I win. I get more player slots than y'all.
That's probably right. Or Doug and I just have to knock guys off your roster. You don't get a flex or a super flex this week.
RJ Maryland is my last receiver at tight end for SMU. I'm all in on SMU versus TCU because in my flex, I've got Bucky Irving, Oregon starting running back there at 7,500. And my super flex is Chandler Morris, quarterback for TCU, 7,800. And we'll see how it goes.
I've really tried to get back to getting a quarterback in my super flex. I just have not had the ability to maneuver the rest of my lineup to get there. So we'll see how if that hurts me this week. Probably will, just like last week. But I am literally putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm starting Shador again in my quarterback position, 9,500. I just until he gives me a reason to not believe in him, I'm going to once he has a bad game, then it's going to change. But he has exceeded expectations in every single game this year, so I'm going to roll with him.
Yeah, they can lose and get crushed, and he can still put up fantasy points.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, Justin Fields in the NFL where, he sucks. The Bears aren't going to win a lot of games, but he might do okay in fantasy.
So I got Rasheen Ali from Marshall, only at $6,000 at my first running back spot. Got Devin Neal from Kansas at my other running back spot at 5,900. Both of those running backs have scored a touchdown in every game they played this year, so I like the fact that they're finding a way to get to the end zone. Jaheim Bell from Florida State, another player who has scored in every game he's played in this year. As you see, there's a little
game. I think he didn't stat in the second game.
Mm-mm.
Well, you know what? I take it back. He didn't stat. He did. He got a touchdown the first week, touchdown in the third week.
Yeah.
Then I got Jerron Bradley from Texas Tech at my other wide receiver spot at 5,900. Both Doug and I went with the Evan Stewart pick over BMAC, so we both decided we needed to get that Evan Stewart pick in there at 6,700. My flex is Trey Sanders from TCU.
Interesting.
At 4,700.
He's got a nose for the end zone, man.
Yeah. Yep. And then my super flex is Jamari Thrash, again, a guy that has reached the end zone in every game he's played in so far this year for Louisville with 4 TDs. And so he's my super flex at 66. Wanted to get a quarterback at that spot. But other than Bradley, I try to get guys that have had a nose for the end zone every game if they possibly could, to see what I can do to overtake BMAC, who's on a win streak right now in this thing.
I literally made every pick on my DFS with the intention of saving money for Bo Nix at the end. So
hey, a 2-game win streak is 2 games too many, BMAC. We can't be having that
losing streak. So let's see if we can make it 4.
Well, you guys are welcome to come hang out this weekend. We've got a heck of a slate, and I'll be watching football all day. You know, you got a great game every hour block. So you guys are welcome. Hit me up if you want to hang out. But I can't wait to watch this slate, and won't be traveling to the swamp this week. So I'm excited about that too, just getting to watch it all from the house. So that's going to be fun. But I've got nothing else. I think that concludes it, unless you guys have anything.
Let's say, talking about the slates of games real fast, you got the FSU Clemson at noon. Then you've got Ole Miss Alabama at 3:30. And then Ohio State Notre Dame, which I think is the big game this weekend at 7:30. That could be playoff potential in that game for sure, for the winner of that game.
Yeah.
My boys are playing on Friday night 2 weeks in a row. What kind of an oddity of scheduling is that, to have NC State playing the Friday night lights game against high school football 2 weeks in a row? So I'm going to be clear as far as that goes. If you guys are in Ocala, especially you guys, if you're in your office on Friday night, go to the office on Friday, then head on over to the farmers market for the Ocala Punk Rock Flea Market. I'll be set up over there Friday from 5 to 10.
Nice.
And then we'll go from there, man. It's been a good week. We're going to see if we can figure out what's going on in my video, because I know that we don't want to be seeing me do this nonsense. It's frustrating, but you can still hear the fun. You can still have fun with us. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you're up there on Discord. Make sure you're giving us your input. We want to know your questions. We want to know your news and notes so that we can get them on the show, so that we can shout you out.
We did get a question. Demo 27.
I'm gonna
have to. Yeah, we got an NFL question here. That was from earlier in the show, but Demo 27.
Man,
Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence.
Oh.
We'll have to take that one up in the.
Yeah,
I'll let you answer that in the.
I'll take care of that for you, Demo 27. And these guys know that I'm a pro freak, so I will take that question after the show's over.
Yeah, in the Discord, so you can kind of take that one down. Might want to just go ahead and answer it on YouTube too. But yeah,
hey, you know what?
Subscribe. It helps a ton if you're able to do that. And yeah,
you know what? I do have a shout out. I do have a shout out real quick to one of the guys in our home league, Mike Davis. Mike Davis could have stolen a win this week because of a statistical error in Fantrax that absolutely would have. I would have never known. One of his guys, they errantly credited him with an additional touchdown. Should not have been in there. He beat me by 0.7 points. He said, no, man, you should have won. My guy got credited with 2 receptions, 96 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He really only had 1 reception for 79 yards and a touchdown. What happened was his player was number 10. Number 11 got the next one, so we think it was just a finger flub in the system. But he could have just sat there. I would have never known. So big shout out to him, because you want to win and you want to always be able to get that dub, but you don't want to get it by some kind of nefarious means. So I appreciate that. If you're in a league and you have a situation like that happen, always get the win through honesty and through better decision making than your opponent, not because of some nonsense in the system. So big shout out to you, Mike Davis.
Mike Davis, shout out. Love it.
He's the man.
He is the man. All right. Well, I appreciate it, everyone. We'll see you guys in the Discord, and we'll see you Saturday morning for the DFS focused show, start sit show. It'll be fun. Y'all have a great one. See you guys.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the CFB Dynasty podcast. Help us out by subscribing on YouTube and reviewing us on your podcast network.